On this episode of AV Week, we take a look at things not to say to women in the AV industry and also ways we can treat each other better. Also, AVIXA has a brand new jobs and sales report out for the latest month. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 505, recorded Friday, April 23rd, 2021. Nobody's Doll.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Kramer, AV Beyond the Box, and by Bodio, a leading manufacturer of professional PTZ cameras, Pro AV Solutions, and UCC integration systems. And by Middle Atlantic, what great systems are built on.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week, first and foremost, Heather Sedorwicz from the beautiful city of Buffalo, New York. Welcome, ma'am.
Hello, welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
Did it snow on you this week? Because it snowed on me in St. Louis. Absolutely
did, yes. It was pretty depressing. We had this wonderful early spring followed by snow. Of course, we didn't take our snow brushes out of our car because we knew better.
Well, not until May, at least.
At least.
Right. Yeah. Somebody else who also doesn't take it out of his car is Joe Dunbar because he's up in Minneapolis. Welcome, sir. He's from Sennheiser. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Our weather is hopefully shaping up soon, but yeah, the spring came and teased us early, and now it's got cold again, so we're all feeling it.
All three of us. The only person on this call who doesn't even own a snow brush is Jody Lloyd from AVIXA down in Atlanta. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi there. Nice to be here.
And just so people know that I wasn't picking on you, you don't own a snow brush, do you?
I do not. We don't do snow in Atlanta, and when it happens, the entire nation hears about it because we shut down. So yeah, no snow.
Yeah, there was a mutual friend of ours, Joe and Erica Carroll, was telling me the story a couple of years ago when you guys got like a quarter inch of snow or something like that, and all up and down 75, there were snow trucks and snow plows on these different exits and rest areas waiting for the snow to happen. And it was from places like Tennessee and Kentucky and Illinois and Virginia, and just sitting there making whatever it is those folks made. So good for them.
So we got snow apocalypse a couple of years back, and it was not very much snow. I'm sure Heather and Joe and you, Tim, would just laugh at the amount. I think it was 2 inches. But the challenge with Atlanta is that we have a lot of hills and rises and falls, and so it freezes, and we don't keep any of the utility trucks that we need in the city. So for as lame as it is, and we made all the news for it, there is a little bit of an excuse there. But yeah, we don't like snow in Atlanta.
No, and I will not put myself in Joe or Heather's level when it comes to snow.
Come on, I have all the fresh water I can shovel off my driveway.
I was going to say, yeah. I do recall a couple of years ago, Heather was on one of our other programs, and there was quite literally 2 feet of snow in your driveway at that moment in time?
That was the worst snowfall possibly ever. We had a total of 7 feet.
Yeah. Feet. That's lake effect, right? That's something
that was lake effect. It was a very unique, very narrow storm. I mean, buried for 5 days, couldn't get out of your driveway, let alone your street. It was an adventure. I mean, if it's going to snow, we might as well make it a big adventure.
Yeah.
7 feet, why not?
You do the same thing where you get milk and eggs and bread. Is that just a Southern thing? For some reason, we make pancakes. I don't know.
I think that people still run out. I mean, I think that we're just a nation now of anything. Oh, it's going to rain today. Let's run out and buy more bread or toilet paper. Which I heard now toilet paper is back in stock, so everybody can relax a little bit.
Yeah. All right. First story actually comes to us from Heather Sedorwicz. Real quick backstory on this. Heather wrote a very nice piece for us in AVNation. Go by, find it, avnation.tv. Mitchell will put a link to it on this episode's page. Heather, I'm going to let you tell the story, but one of the things is in the back end, I am part of an email group, me personally, Tim, of AV yoga people. I may be the only
You're the only man.
I am the only man on this group. And so Heather starts talking about this, and I am quite literally like the only. Yeah, I'm very uncomfortable, just reading some of these things. So Heather, you go ahead, you tell the story. I'm just going to do what I did in the email chain and sit back and shut my mouth.
All right. So about 2 weeks ago, I was on a call with a manufacturer. I'll keep all names out because I don't think that we need to crucify anybody. I just think that the goal is to bring attention to it. And during that call with that manufacturer, who we'd been partners with for years, so it's not like they had never known us or spoken to us before. I had 2 male colleagues in that meeting. I'll point out that I'm the owner of the company. And during that time, as we're having a conversation and talking about women-owned businesses, because in New York State, that plays a part in the way that state entities can purchase. And he said, well, my experience with women-owned businesses is that they're just all box pushers. And I don't think that he said it to try to necessarily be condescending, but I was so flabbergasted and pissed that I came back to this group of girls and Tim, not knowing that at the time, and said, oh my God, like this happened. Like I'm angry. And there was an outcry of support from the other people on the email thread. And after reading those pieces, I sat with it for a while, a week or so really, and thought, it's a lot to take. It's not a make or break. I love what I do. I love our industry. I think it's filled with mostly great people. I've traveled to countless, you can see behind me, there's all these badges. I've traveled to countless conferences by myself. I've never felt threatened. None of that has happened. But sometimes the comments that are made are inappropriate. So I compared it to paper cuts. We can all survive a paper cut, but over and over when it happens, at some point you want to bring attention to it. So I went back out to this group and asked them if they could share some of their stories with me. I took all the names of the people out and whoever said it out so that it wasn't, again, I really want to strongly say I do not think that this should be a man versus woman scenario. I believe in a world of where there's just both everywhere, because scientifically proven that we see things and look at things differently. So it gives better perspective to a board. It gives better perspective to your company. So if your company's all men, my husband in his previous job worked with all women, and he was him and one other man and like 20 women. I believe that that's just as inappropriate as we find sometimes on the other side, maybe in our industry. So yeah, called some attention to it and was kind of blown away by what other people have heard said as well. So put it out there and started that conversation, because change won't happen if we're always too afraid to talk about it.
All right. So a couple of the comments that Heather got back were simple ones, right? And not simple ones. Ones that you kind of would get, right? Nice rack is one of them. And in talking beforehand, Joe Dunbar said, oh my gosh, I that how offensive. But here's the thing. I have heard that more than once on the show floor, not picking on any show, Joey, multiple shows, right? I have heard that in on job sites and stuff. So that's one that I had heard, and that one didn't shock me. It didn't surprise me. But here's the one that kind of did. And Joey, I want to get your 2 cents and kind of get also all 3 of yours, what we can do to be better, quite frankly. One of the ones was, I have to admit, if you were a man, I would have signed the agreement by now. This is a customer, right? That was the one that like the readily admission that because you're a woman, I'm actively choosing not to do business with you. And that's the one that kind of got me.
I'll jump into that one to say that I'll admit that one did happen to me. That was me. Okay. So yeah, that was me. And it was years back, maybe 5-ish years back, and he owned an electrical company, and he would meet, and he was building a very fancy house at the time. And not only did he say that, but he then went out and signed up to be a dealer for one of the manufacturers so that he could find out what cost was so that he could try to negotiate better. When he gave me his deposit, it was at that time, I think one of the larger jobs I had sold. I sent it back to him, and it was super scary to do that, and it was the greatest decision I ever made. Rich Fregoso once gave me a line that said, sometimes the most profitable job you have is the one you said no to. And I'm super happy that I did. I never looked back and have never regretted that moment, and just said, maybe you should take your business elsewhere.
And there are lots of words of wisdom that I've gained from Uncle Richie over the years, and that's also another one. Yeah, absolutely. So, Joey, we'll start with you on this, and Joe, you and I will kind of finish this out. One of the other conversations that has come up inside this AV yoga group that I'm in is what to call people in terms of endearment, right? And some of the ones that have come up are phrases like hun and sweetie and dear and sweetheart
and toots,
toots, right? Or they're and the question has been asked, well, what can you say, right? And actually some of the conversations then kind of morphed into, well, and those were terms of endearment that some people genuinely mean to mean well with, right? Then you get into colorful language, right? Curse words. So how far can you take that? So let's kind of give this an overarching. How do we treat each other better as human beings, Joey? How do we, what is it that we can do? And is it just simply just be a better human? Is it simple as that? Or is it, really kind of put ourselves in other people's shoes and say, kind of what, the whole golden rule, how would I want to be treated?
That is such a large question. Of course, be better humans. Of course, be good to one another. But the fact of the matter is that we work in business, we work in a professional environment. It is our job to treat each other with respect and to know each other's names. And I am totally afoul of forgetting people's names. I do it often. It goes in one ear and it goes straight out the other. I am terrible. I have to meet you probably a half a dozen times before I will truly remember your name. That said, be kind enough to use the proper name. If you don't remember, ask. I do have a fairly recent memory of someone, hey, doll. I am nobody's doll. I have spent a career being not a doll, being considered to be quite aggressive and straightforward in most things. Strong, yes. But no, you use somebody's name, use the name that they want to be called, and I think that comes to pronouns, and you may notice that I've put my pronouns in my display information. It's really important to treat people with respect in the way that they want to be treated and to understand that. I don't know anything more straightforward than that. I have a strange spelling on my name and a somewhat masculine name. I just had a meeting very recently where someone did not use my name correctly. It was really uncomfortable and really annoying. And I had to speak up and say, my name is Joey. It's not Joe.
And I was going to ask you what they called you, because to me, but I was introduced to you, I think before you and I ever before I ever knew how to spell your name. So maybe that's the advantage that I had.
I have never been offended by someone asking me about my name, how to say it appropriately. And when I get on the phone with new people and I don't know how to say their name appropriately, I ask, and I really do try to get it right. It is a sign of respect, and I think it's a really pretty simple one.
It is, absolutely. Mr. Dunbar, same kind of question: is how do we treat each other better?
I have a lot of thoughts on this. It's funny talking about your name. My sister's name is Kate, and she goes by Kate, and she had a teacher who, for her entire career at that place, called her Katie, and it drove her insane. And that's not a gendered thing at all. That's just, it's disrespectful, because that's how people wish to be addressed. Just to further that point, Joey. And then also, In terms of endearment and things like that, in sales especially, I really want to let people know, my position, and I try to come from a place of positivity and build positive relationships with people. And I use terms like friend and my partner and buddy, we're partners together and you're my friend and that sort of thing. And again, those are non-gendered terms of endearment, and that shows that I have a positive feeling towards our discussion or our conversation or our relationship. And certainly, not that we need more of the male perspective, but I have really tried to be great about just doing more listening. My personality certainly lends itself to being the type of person who can be, loud and, run a show if I need to or something like that. But trying to make sure that if somebody's not speaking up, that we give them the space to speak up and a platform to speak up and those types of things. So it really goes back to being, respectful and just fostering a community of respect and an industry of respect. And our friend Megan Dutta just published an article about diversity and inclusion and how important it is, not only on a human level, but also, to your point, Heather, at a business level. It's better for everybody on every level. So just be a better, take the time to be a better person and maybe think before you speak next time.
And I think it goes beyond that is we also should try harder to prop each other up. I think in history, women can sometimes be other females' worst enemy instead of propping each other up and being positive. So to go back to Tim, how this email thread started, I've been in this business now for 20 years. I've never felt like I had a girl gang. I really didn't know enough people. I remember going to my very first InfoComm and knowing nobody there. And because of the pandemic, Katie McGregor started this group just to get together. Hey, I have a yoga teacher who's willing to teach virtually. We can all pop on. And, what happened is you had people from all over the world who were popping on and then connecting and then propping each other up. And then there was a voice. And when you feel supported, you're more likely to say, hey, this is happening. And we as females sometimes don't go out of our way to say, hey, Joey, I was on that podcast with you today. You were so brave and fierce, and it was awesome. Versus oh, I didn't like the way she ... We all females have to do it as well. We can be our own worst enemy sometimes. We should go out of our way to prop everyone else up and to help out as well.
I think yes, Heather, and thank you. But I think it goes beyond that. I think moving away from there's nothing wrong with being competitive and being your best self and trying to raise above whatever it is that you are currently doing. But I think in this past year, particularly the social media that has grown and the AV tweets and particularly huge shout out to Chris and what he's been doing. But there has been such support and the ability for people of all types, shapes, and colors to share what's going on in their personal world and not just what's going on from a business front has been amazing. And there are so many people that I don't think I've had the chance to meet in person, and yet I feel like I know them and I know personal things. It's been amazing. And so it's not just, yes, women can be terrible to other women and mean girls suck. But beyond that, it's about everyone and supporting each other. Tim, I don't know, honestly, if it's something that you just do with me, or I feel like you might have a kind of a list you're going after, but I get the occasional text message of you're fantastic and you're special. And I have to tell you, it makes me glow. Like my whole day is that much better because you reached out and said, I think you're awesome.
You're not allowed to do that. I have tried over the last year, and there are some people that are still. I do have a list that I haven't gotten to yet, quite frankly. And it's just what I'm feeling at that moment in time, right? That day, who's on my mind, who's on my heart, right? Type thing. Not to get too overly spiritual about that.
No, but if we all do that, right? So if we pay it forward in that way, think of just what about the place the world would be, and that's in every facet of our life. We should teach that to our children, and it is about respect and being better, and sometimes calling people out to say, hey, that wasn't cool what you said. I'm not great at that part yet. Although I did, but it was thanks to Tim. Tim called me after he saw that email and said, hey, I know somebody else at this company. Would you mind if I called them? And I said, no, so that, I'm not trying to get this guy fired, but someone to say, hey, this isn't something that you should say. And if it wasn't obvious to you.
Well, and there is something I have learned over the years, that being where kind of I am, and where the idea that I'm a cis white male, right, in a predominantly white male industry, there's a certain responsibility that I have, to, when something is wrong, to take it on myself and say, okay, we can be better and we should be better. So let me, in one small way, try to fix this, right? I cannot fix the entire industry. That is not possible. But there's a day and a moment in time where I can fix this, right? And knowing the company and knowing certain people in the company, I knew damn good and well that that's not how that company runs. So I felt comfortable enough with my relationship with them, and say to confidently say, if you let me, I can connect the two of you to Heather, not to this other company, and they'll make it right in some way, shape, or form.
And they did. They did all the right, appropriate things.
Yeah. Now, not saying that I wouldn't do it because I wasn't comfortable, but that I could almost speak for that company. I had that level of relationship with these folks, right? And I knew, and they did exactly what I knew they would do, right? So. One last thing on Joey's point that there is about social media. There are certain people that I have yet to meet in person, probably because of the pandemic. Joe's one of them, right? I cannot wait for the moment where I can hug the crap out of Joe's neck in person, real, because I've never met him in person, right? But I've learned to just kind of fall in love with this guy, and he's just fantastic and just full of energy, and so incredibly excited to. By the time you listen to this, I'm going to be in New Jersey, right, on my first actual trip. Hanging out with the folks at Crestron. In 3-4 months' time, we'll be in Indianapolis for CEDIA, and shortly thereafter, we'll be in Orlando for Infocom. Yeah, incredibly excited to see some people for the first time in person, and obviously all of you. So, thanks so much for watching this first segment of AV Week. To check out the rest of the episode for free, click on the link below or go by the website avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.